welcome back to another episode of the Keeping It Pinned podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Owen. And today we've got a couple of different topics. Well, three to be precise. First one we're going to touch on is we're going to start off on a cheery note, actually. We'll keep this as light-hearted as possible. But it's one that I think as bike riders probably crosses everyone's mind from time to time. And we're all aware of it. And it's kind of the elephant in the room a little bit, but it's the kind of dangers of motorcycling and, you know, how much that comes into it, and, you know, our decision to continue riding, whether that be on the road or the track. You know, if it's ever something that we consider stopping riding at a point in life, or, you know, if we're willing to kind of accept the risks, you know, indefinitely and just enjoy it for what it is and accept those risks. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that one, Jamie?
So I think, like you were saying, it's something that crosses every rider's mind at one point or another. Whether it does every time you go out for a ride, you might be of the mindset of, no, while I'm out for a ride, I'm just on my bike, I'm enjoying it, every second of it, doesn't even cross my mind. Obviously, everyone will have it in the back of their head to an extent because you're aware of what the dangers are around you. The older I've got, the more I've been aware of it as such, the more it's in the forefront of my mind. I've always been of the mentality of, if I had enough money to only ride on track, then I would probably do it. Because I don't enjoy riding on the road as much, but it is mostly that danger element. Now, I've had a couple of offs on the road. Again, luckily none of them were particularly serious. Mostly my own fault, whether it was being daft or going out on my Bandit 600 in the snow or whatever it might be. I've had some moments. But yeah, like I say, luckily nothing too serious. But my wife she used to come on the back of my old GSX-R 600 when I had that lovely little K1 Lucky Strike edition bike. Absolutely love that bike. Really sealed it for me that bigger bikes, fun bikes, sport bikes was sort of something that I was very interested in. She used to love coming out on the back. But when we had our youngest child together, the day after that happened, you were out for a ride with a friend of ours. That was the day after Sonny was born, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Timing couldn't have been more evident.
Yeah, Leah was already thinking that maybe going out on the bike wasn't necessarily the best idea now that we've got a real little one at home. And she'd already been toying with the idea of probably not going on the back of the bike anymore. This sort of very much sealed the deal. So we came back from the hospital with having our little one, and we were laying in bed and saw a FaceTime call from our friend Dan. Now, I thought, that's weird. It was early in the morning. Dan, he's probably pocket dialed us. I'll answer it just to see what's going on. And he was laying in a hospital bed. Now, Owen, you were there. Not in the hospital bed with him.
In the bed with him.
But you were there for the reason that he was in a hospital bed.
Yeah, I was very much aware of what had gone on at this point. We'd been out for a ride it was early August 2020. So, year of the COVID.
I thought you were going to tell me Year of the Dragon or
Year
something.
of the Dragon.
Like
It was a year of an animal. I can't tell you which one. But yeah, it was that infamous COVID year. And yeah, we, you know, just things have started to open up again. You know, cars were out on the roads. It was starting to get busy and people going back to work and stuff like that. And we got out I believe it was a Friday. We'd taken a day off and we'd been out on a Friday afternoon. And we'd had an amazing day out riding, just me, Jake and Dan, two of my closest mates. And we were just heading back off at rush hour, really, somewhere out the back of Colchester way. And yeah, a lot of cars on the road. And we were just sort of following, sort of three abreast. We're in a bit of a sort of triangle formation.
Now, just to jump in here, you were on your MT?
I was on the Grom.
You were on the Grom?
So this
I didn't know that.
The MT at this time was in the shop.
Okay.
The MT was getting its gut service after. Yeah, it was getting a right seeing to. The MT unfortunately needed a gearbox rebuild at this point,
which I think we put down to a quick shifter not being tuned up quite right.
Troubles with the quick shifter, yeah.
Okay. So because of that, you were out on the Grom.
I was out on the Grom.
Jake was on his MT?
Jake was on the MT.
And Dan?
And Dan was on his fairly brand new Yamaha MT-09 SP.
Had he had his first service at this point?
I'm not sure if he'd quite reached his first service. It barely been running that bike. It was, barely scrubbed the tyres. Yeah, and it was a lovely bike. And, he'd saved up some money for that bike and done all the modifications to it and got it in a...
He went all out, didn't he?
He went all out on it from new, and it was a really nice bike, and he absolutely loved it. Yeah, we were riding a bit of a triangle formation, and he unfortunately... he was on the side nearest the centre of the road on I think it was 40 mile an hour...
40 mile an hour limit.
40 mile
you were
an hour.
going the speed limit.
Yep. And out of nowhere... I was at the back, Jake was at the front, Dan was in the middle, and a car just veered into our lane and collided with Dan, and he flew quite dramatically, I think you can say, through the air and landed on the ground. And, in that split second, it was one of those moments where everything just flashes in front of you. It sounds cliche, but, the whole thing sort of happens in slow motion, and and you see your mate being wiped out by a car through absolutely no fault of his own at all, and you think, it's one of those moments where I didn't know if he was gonna make it out. There was a moment of a few seconds there where me and Jake stopped, and I pulled over, and I didn't know if he was going to be with us anymore. Thankfully, he was in. He wasn't fine. He wasn't fine.
He was far from fine.
He was far from fine. He suffered a compound fracture to his femur, but
all the way through his leathers.
I've
seen the pictures.
Yeah.
They're quite horrific.
Yeah, it was a horrendous accident, and to be honest, he's although he has suffered the consequences of that, and it is a very unfortunate incident. It's also very fortunate he's still here, and he's got back on a bike. It hasn't scared him off.
So I think that sort of almost brings us full circle, obviously, to the point where even though he's been through that didn't put him off from riding. So that says something about us bikers.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good thing it says about us or not. But I believe you had a bit of a moment after that where you very much questioned whether it is worth being on two wheels when you're exposing yourself to this sort of stuff. I think if it was a situation where Dan had done something silly and he came off of his own accord, I think you sort of then think, oh, well, it's his own fault. I'll just slow down, or I'll stop doing this, or I'll be a bit more careful. But when it was something that was almost completely out of his control, and like you say, out of no fault of his own at all, I think that does open your eyes up a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely made Jake and I both question it, for quite a while there. I think, having witnessed it, we felt just a little bit... I think it just made us reassess the whole thing, and you sort of go through years of riding and getting to that point where it's all just fun and games. Yeah. And it's not until something like that happens and it makes you go, the consequences are actually pretty serious of when things are out of your hands even, and like Jamie said, it was nothing that Dan did whatsoever. It was entirely on the driver, that incident of the car. And it definitely scared us. It made us reassess. I think we've probably all since then taken a bit of a step back from road riding. I think a little bit is fair to say, and I don't know if that's just a reflection of our lives, and life just gets busy and not finding as much time for it, and also perhaps for us taking a bit more of a step towards track days and riding in a slightly, for us, more enjoyable but also slightly safer and more contained environment. But it hasn't put me off road riding. I will still, my bike is still insured for this year. I will still get out on the road, and I do look forward to it. And there's something for me about track days are great, but there is something about just getting out on a summer's evening on your own or with your mates, and after work, just blowing off some steam, and it just takes you back to that kind of freedom that I felt in the early days of riding, and I do still get that. So I don't think for now I'm going to give up on road riding. I do still enjoy it, but I think you have to start to be a lot more aware of the dangers. And to be honest, in the UK, the state of the roads even. Stuff like that.
At the moment, it's absolutely shocking, the state of the roads. It's
Yeah.
genuinely quite scary. We've recently, through work, we've seen some car crashes, some damaged bikes. I've seen, all over Facebook and everything, that the state of the roads are shocking, and it's put me off being on the road at the moment, especially just in general. Over winter, not even an itch to get out. Now that the weather's getting a little bit better, I'm starting to think, it would be lovely to be out on a bike right now. But yeah, I think for me, I have sort of made the call this year that I'm probably not going to be riding on the road this year for a couple of reasons. One, I haven't got a bike to do it. I do. I've got the Tuono.
That's a valid point.
I've still got all the road bits for the Tuono if I ever fancy just going out for a blast. But I've just cancelled my insurance because I've got no... To me, I've got, like I say, 2 young kids. The reward doesn't necessarily outweigh the risk for me of riding on the road. Since being more on track, I absolutely love being on track. I was lucky to do a good handful of track days last year. Hopefully be doing another good handful this year. It's a pain in the arse swapping all of my track bits over to the road bits. I'd have to get the bike MOT'd, depending on what tyre choice I go for this year, potentially swapping wheels or tyres over, and it just becomes a bit of a pain. If I'm doing enough track days throughout the summer, it's not worth me swapping them over. I would still like to do some longer trips at some point, which I know seems a little bit counterintuitive, saying I'm not going to ride on the road and then say, but I do want to go and do a 2,000 mile round trip. I can understand that seems a little bit backwards. But for me, doing a trip like that would make it worth the risk a little bit more.
Sure.
But yeah, I've always very much been of the mentality that track riding is bloody brilliant. And given the choice, given if I had enough money, I would be out every week riding around the track, and I wouldn't necessarily have to touch a road ever. Again, a lot of that I think is settling down, I suppose is fair to say, having kids, having a wife at home, and having people that are dependent on you. I think that makes a big difference to your mentality. I still, when I do end up going out on the road, I still always get home and go, oh, why did I do that? Why did I not just have a nice chill ride? I don't have a lot of self-control, which I think is another... I never go silly, but it's another reason why I think I've sort of decided I'm just best off for a little while just staying off the road and enjoying the track. I think, like you say, everyone knows the dangers when you get into it. It's not until you're potentially in a position where you have quite a bad off yourself, or you're around that, someone close to you, or even like in your situation, someone that you were riding with at the time. That crash could have been a lot worse, like you said, with Dan. Jake, I think, got clipped by the car as well, I believe. So that
it was clipped by the bumper of the car.
So this car nearly got both of them, nearly double points on that one.
Mm.
But again, very unlucky for Dan to be in that place at that time. Very lucky to have come out relatively, well, not unscathed, but, he's alive, I think, basically, is what we're getting at.
Yeah, he's with us.
Still back on a bike, like you said.
Back on a bike. He walks. He can have a mostly normal life. Granted, he had a fairly major surgery. And had his leg, a rod put in his leg. It's definitely big repercussions of that. And that's obviously he has to live with that. But he for the most part hasn't knocked his desire to be on to bike entirely. And he's definitely fortunate in a lot of ways, for sure. Equally, I've had my own share of
a fair share.
My own incident that was, as far as I'm concerned, out of my own hands was I had a muntjac run out in front of me.
Yes,
and I had a bit of a fight with a little baby deer, didn't I? So
yeah, poor little thing. Fair to say it lost.
It did lose. To be honest, I don't think there were any winners in that situation.
Well, no, quite, but you came off better.
I definitely came off better than the poor little muntjac. I didn't feel great about that one, but
again, a completely out of your control sort of a situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking about it with my dad earlier, actually. The animals that you see around here, the wildlife, deer, muntjac especially, are bloody everywhere. And especially at certain times of the day, you are just prone to them. They run out. I don't know. You walk anywhere near them and you step on a twig and they'll leg it in the other direction. You come screaming at them up the road on an MT with a bloody loud Acura on it.
Yeah.
And they think, oh yeah, brilliant, I'll jump out here. This is my time to cross.
He just came out to listen to the exhaust, and he liked the sound of the quick
must have
shifter.
been, yeah, that must have been it, I think.
Yeah, something like that. But liked it a bit too much.
Yeah.
wanted to join me on board, but yeah, no, poor fella. But
so yeah, you've had your fair share of offs. Some of them your fault.
Some a little more my fault than that one. Yeah, definitely.
Some out of your control. Again, I think we'll save our crashes for another pod. We don't want to keep it too low for this one. It's already been quite a deep one. So we'll keep that for another time. There have been
welcome to Keepin It Pinned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get a bike. It's awesome. No, we don't want to put you off too much. We at the end of the day, look, we all know the risks. We've been around incidents. We've been in our own incidents. And we've always come out thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll change the way I ride a little bit. Maybe I'll change what I do, what I ride, where I ride. But we're both obsessed with bikes.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, anything on two wheels I'm interested in. I want to ride everything.
I want to ride everything.
I want to ride all the motorcycles. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride all of the motorcycles. I want to ride them on track. I want to go exploring. I want to do green lane. I want to do this, that, and the other. At the moment, track is at the forefront of my mind. And yeah, part of that is the safety element of it. Well, I say safety, not necessarily safer, but hopefully if you're coming off on the track, although it's a higher chance, it will be, fingers crossed, lower incident, a less severe incident, should we say.
It's fair to say the repercussions are generally lower on track.
You slide off on the road, you might be going under a tractor, you might be hitting a bank, you might be hitting anything like that. Whereas hopefully if you have a low side on the track, you're just sliding into the kitty litter.
Yep, for the most part. And, you might gravel rash your nice fairings or, write off a set of leathers. But
in the grand scheme of things,
there are obviously there are exceptions. People do get hurt on track, but I think the risks are, I would say, lower overall.
Yep.
It's a contained environment. Everyone's going in the same direction,
and it's more fun. It's great fun.
It's brilliant. It's bloody brilliant.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, like I say, I'm not writing off being on the road ever in the future. I've got my little 250 project that once that's done, I will take it for a spin. I'll ride it for a couple of months before I move it on. And again, potentially the option for some more exciting, longer, more explory sort of trips in the future.
Yeah.
Definitely on the cards, but we'll see where things go.
Absolutely. Moving on from that one a little bit then. So I think it's fair to say we've both progressed from our earlier days of riding a little bit, where we'd go out in rain or shine. Mm-hmm. Any excuse to get on two wheels, I think, was kind of our attitude back in the earlier days. And I think for me, well, I'll get your thoughts on it, but I think I've become a bit of a fair weather rider, and I'm not afraid to admit it, to be honest. I'm not scared. If the sun's not out, and it's not in double digits.
I'm scared of the rain.
Yeah, exactly. Scared of even a drop. Yeah, I think, won't go out if it's wet as a choice. If you get caught out, fine.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been in situations where you look at the sky, oh yeah, I'm going to be fine. I'll get out for a couple of hours, and then you're the furthest point away from home that you're going to be during the day, and then suddenly it starts tipping it down. It is what it is. You're not going to pull over and get into a cafe and wait however many hours for it to potentially stop. We've all ridden home. Yeah, I'm very much like you as well. I started off any excuse to get out on the bike. I had a little car. I love cars as well. Anything with wheels I'm interested in. But bikes, I've always had a proper passion for, I think it's fair to say. And yeah, even in my 125 days, I had a perfectly good car sitting there. I would nearly always choose to take the bike out. It could be raining, it could be snowing, it could be anything was an adventure, basically, I think is the way I used to look at it. Or an experience is probably a better way of putting it. I mean, we used to go to bike meets. I don't know whether you ever got involved with the Great Bentley bike meets.
Yes, I've been there a few times.
Yeah. So again, I used to do these in the 125 days, and a little bit later on when I had my WR250X and some other bikes a bit later on after that. But there were a couple of times where we knew the weather was going to be bad, and we went there. I had one that I remember quite vividly. on my little my little Jinlun JL125 chopper bobber thing that I built. Bit of a mongrel.
What a beast.
What a beast. I took that to Great Bentley to go and look at some other bikes, get excited over bikes that I now know aren't exciting at all. You see them all the time. But yeah, just anything that wasn't a 125 was exciting back then. And yeah, we got there. There was barely any other bikes there because they were all clever enough to look at the weather and decide, no, it's not worth getting my bike wet for. And on our ride home, going up the dual carriageway, because we thought, we'll go the long way round back home, even though it started raining, and that absolutely pissed it down the whole way home, and then that turned into snow and slush, and yeah, quite an experience on that ride. I remember, do you know what? I did have the foresight to think I'm going to put my waterproofs on. What I didn't think about is how to put them on properly.
Right.
So my gloves, I tucked my jacket into my gloves, as I always do. You know, your gloves go on the outside of your jacket because they were long wristed ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I tucked my waterproof trousers into my boots because I thought that was a clever idea.
Right.
And so riding home, as soon as it started getting wet, I thought, brilliant, I've got my waterproofs on, everything's going to be dandy. I'll stand up here on this bit of road and have a bit of a stretch, and all the water ran down my trousers straight into my boots. And to the point where when I then got home, I took my boots off and tipped them out, and they were probably half full of water. All right, I've only got little feet, but that was still quite a lot of water.
Very soggy foot.
Yeah, and the same thing with the cold and the wet. I tensed up and I got all horrible. I thought I'm going to have to stand up again and have another stretch. Did that, and all the water ran down my sleeves into my gloves as well. So I was absolutely soaked, but I loved it. I thought it was funny when I got home. I was freezing. Warm myself up, and yeah, it's just another adventure on the bike, and that was always the way. Another story, I had a Suzuki Bandit 600 that I touched on earlier. I had a Mark 1 Golf at the time as well that I'd lowered, and it was a bit silly. And because it was snowing, I thought, I'm going to go and see our friend Sam. We're going to take some skateboards without trucks on, and we're going to see if we can bomb down a couple of hills on them. Naturally got in the car, tried to make it down the road, made it about 3 meters, and it was too low. It got beached on the snow. So me and a bunch of neighbours dug it out, pushed it back in. I thought, how am I going to get it? Of course, I've got the Bandit. So I hopped on the Bandit and I rode it all the way from mine to Debenham, a little local village. Now I was stuck behind cars. So what are all these guys? They're making such a fuss. This is fine. Got through Debenham, going the other way, and just hit a patch of ice, and it just went straight out from underneath me. I ended up sliding down the road, trying to pick the bike back up, and there were cars with all four wheels locked up, sliding towards me, trying to pick the bike up. I couldn't go anywhere. It was quite, luckily all fine. No other people involved. Another adventure. And I carried on to Ipswich as well.
Makes a good story.
It does make for a good story. Carried on to Ipswich, up the A14, going 40 mile an hour with a steady suddenly hit a patch of ice and slide all over the place. But yeah, I'm an idiot, and I thought it was worth it.
Bigger balls than me going out in that weather.
I mean, look, that balls or stupidity, I think, they're probably fighting each other on that one.
Yeah,
I think one's definitely winning. But yeah, nowadays, very much the same as you. I go out, and if there's too much moisture in the air, I'm not even tempted to go outside.
Yeah, wind's
it's
blowing the slight wrong direction.
Yeah, that's it. It's got to be bloody nice for me to be tempted to take the bike out.
Yeah, not going to disagree on that. It's just, yeah, it used to be a sort of ride at any costs in any weathers, sort of affair, and I think that's just shifted a little bit over the last few years. And it's all about that risk thing as well.
It's going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And you absolutely put yourself at higher risk by being out in the rain and stuff like that. So, yeah, if you get caught out, you get caught out. But try and keep it to a nice sunny day for me nowadays.
Yeah, again, there's some people that are much braver, much better riders than us that ride in it all weather, every weather. People that have commuted all their lives and never been interested in a car. Fair play. Not for me.
I respect it.
Yeah, yeah.
I do respect it.
Yeah, but I'm happy in my nice warm van with the heated seats and the heater on full blast. That will do me in the bad weather, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree on that one.
So have you got one more topic for us for this pod then?
Yeah, for today. We were going to just talk a little bit about my my track bike project.
We were, yeah. So, I mean, we touched on it in some of the previous pods, and we said that this is actually your first big bike project. You've always tinkered, haven't you? You know,
Yeah.
your MT, you've fitted aftermarket parts, you've repaired it if there's been an
A
incident.
couple of times.
As per your annual full refurb of that bike.
Full Hammerite refresh.
Yeah, needs a little bit of hammerite every now and then on some patches. You're more than happy tinkering, and also you've got quite an involved job. That involve quite intense work on vehicles, I suppose. I think it's fair to say. Do you want to quickly touch on that and say what you do for work?
Well, so do you know what? Over the past few years, I've really picked up my current job. I've picked up through tinkering on my own bike. Is the truth, and so you know those skills, just kind of maintaining the bike, working on the car, bits here and there, has landed me quite amazingly a job working in motorsport as a race mechanic. So.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, it's
super cool.
It is mega. You know, and a bit of a childhood dream for me, you know, absolutely. You know, and so somehow managed to make it work. But, you know, and that really did just come from working on the bike and having an interest in the industry and an interest in, you know, mechanics and playing with things and taking them apart, putting them back together and trying to do things as properly as possible and within the realms of what you can do in your own garage at home. So,
and as you just said, taking apart and putting back together, great. Putting back together from a box of bits, potentially a bit more of a challenge. And this is the position that you found yourself in with your current track bike project. Your 1999 RSV Mille.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That was very much a large plastic box of bits when I bought it, and I sort of looked at it and went, "Oh, we've got a bit of a project on our hands here." But do you know, it's actually been really nice, and I've really enjoyed. Although it's been dragged out over a few months in between quite a busy season with racing, and you know, fitting it in where I can and figuring out what it needs and you know what's probably due a refresh and figuring out the bike as well. You know what little Italianisms they've got. Little
We do love that saying.
Yeah, we do.
These old Aprilias have definitely got their little Italianisms. They've got quirks, very quirky.
Yes.
Little things, you know, dry sump setups and little things like that. Just you have to rethink the way that you've always done oil changes, and you know, little things like that. They've got their own, as you were just saying, their own little issues that are quite nice to iron out before you even get on them. Some electrical, some other, shall we say? But yeah, you got it in a bit of a state where you didn't really know what had been done to it. And you've been going through, you've been learning a lot. Again, mention him again. He gets another shout out, Griff from AB Workshops. He's helped us out a lot. He's helped me out a hell of a lot with my 200 because that was, although I got that bike complete, it never ran quite right. And I've spent some time on it, some money on it. I spent a lot of time hassling Griff and picking his brains. And yeah, he's really helped me out with mine. And in turn, I think I've managed to help you out a little bit with yours. But yeah, did you find it? You said it was quite daunting then when you first saw that box of bits. We were expecting to turn up to a full bike when we went and picked it up. It very much wasn't that.
Yeah, I think you know the expectation was that it was mostly a complete bike. That was absolutely not the case, but you know it's fine. It's been a good opportunity to get to know the bike, put it all back together, and know that I've done it, you know, properly to my own standard. Replaced any bits that needed doing. Done some few little upgrades here and there, and I think it's been a fun project, and it will be. It's not there yet, you know. It's still got a few more bits to. It's a running bike, but we're just at a point now where I'm kind of getting the brakes bled up, and we've got, you know, a working rolling bike, a running bike, and it's just a case of getting the brakes done, getting some fairings on it, and getting some new tyres, and it's pretty much going to be ready to go and do some days on track this year.
That's very exciting. I mean, we've got, I think I have got a date in April coming up at Castle Combe, which I'm very excited about taking my 200 on. And other than that, I think we said our first one at our local track, Snetterton, will probably be the 18th of May. All being well.
All being well.
You never know what's going to crop up with these bikes and with our lives. Something might fall those plans. Equally, the Great British weather might chuck a bit of a spanner in the works.
Yep, it's
but
very possible.
We've spoken about it before. You love a bit of wet track riding.
We do. We've got plenty of experience with that. Seasoned veteran in a way.
Absolutely. Maybe a bit of redemption if we find ourselves in that situation again. But yeah, so overall, you're happy. You are glad that you went for this bike. At the time you were looking at CBRs, a bike that we spoke about on the last podcast, one of your dream bikes. I spoke you out. I didn't talk you out of that one. I talked you into a Mille though.
You did talk me into a Mille.
Because not something you'd necessarily really looked at before.
Yeah, not really. There was a really nice CBR 600 came up in the summer, and I just missed out on it, unfortunately.
Oh, there was, wasn't there? Yeah,
there was.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, it was £2,200, was it?
Yeah,
fairly local to us.
I think it was. Yeah, it was low.
You jumped straight on the messages, but still, unfortunately, it was a bit too late. It had a lot of interest, understandably, for that money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, somebody got an absolute bargain on that. It was a really nice sort of track bike with loads of bits on it.
So you had a cash burning a hole in your pocket that you were trying to get rid of.
Yeah, clearly.
Because of that, yeah, like I say, we're a bit of a friend of a friend of mine had this bike, and I sent it over your way, and I basically said, if you don't go and buy it, then I will.
Yeah. So I just jumped in there just a little bit before.
Yeah, just to stop me from getting it.
Pretty much. Yeah, just to wind you up. So got a really good deal on it, and guy I bought it off a decent bloke. So no, I'm confident that's, having now been working on it, I was perhaps a little bit hesitant to begin with, but having been working on it and taking it to Griff, and he's like, yeah, that's a good bike you've got there for good money. So no, it should be nice. It should do me well, hopefully. And
yeah, very excited to hopefully see that all back together in one bit very soon, and see it smashing around a couple of track days.
Yeah, a couple of track days, absolutely.
So make sure you do all your spanner checks and your pen marking and everything that Griff showed us. Again, if you haven't seen that video on how we prep our bikes, you get to see both of our bikes in the video. Go and check that out on our YouTube channel, Regular Traffic Productions, and tell us what you think. Witness it firsthand and witness some of the great advice that Griff has given us as far as getting these bikes ready for me another season, and for you, your first season on it on track. Yeah,
absolutely. No, looking forward to it for sure. It's going to be a good year ahead of us, I think. And it'll be interesting to see us two as well on similar bikes, I think.
No, sorry, I forgot about that. You've actually got to sell that bike. Something's come up. You need to stick to your 75 horsepower MT. I am a bit worried. Was it the last time that we went to Snetterton, or maybe the time before? It must have been the time before, because I think I was putting in a 2-minute 17 or 2. Yeah, I think a 2-minute 17 lap round Snetterton at the time. And you were doing, what were you doing on average on your MT?
It was low 220s. So yeah, I think it was about 221, 2, I want to say, something like that.
Yeah, okay. So already not a big enough difference as I'd hope for the difference in bike. But I let you have a go on the Tuono, didn't I? And you put in a 219.
Yes.
So your first time on a big bike on the track. And you were already just a bigger MT in it, but you were already not far off my times. So that's quite annoying, because you've always been quicker than me. You've always been quicker than me on the road, and for a long while on the track as well. I've had quicker bikes, but as a whole, you've been a quicker rider. Because I maybe got 1 or 2 more track days in this year than you, I think I managed to pull away a little bit, and I was maybe getting a little bit quicker. But then seeing you on my Tuono has put a lot of doubt in my mind again, and I am quite worried about what you're going to be doing time-wise on this Mille, because I think it's not going to be long until you're beating me for times. 2:15 is my best at the moment. I'm hoping to get that down to the 2:10s. I reckon
it's a race to the 2:10s.
It's a race to the 2:10s. I think we need to put a bit of a wager on it at some point, but let's save that for a video. We'll see how we get on with track prep first. Otherwise, there might be a bit of sabotage.
Yes, absolutely. No, for sure. But looking forward to it. It's going to be a good year on track, and hopefully try some more tracks other than just Snetterton. I think we've
that's all you've done, isn't it?
Done that to death a little bit.
I've done one day at Mallory on top of that, and that's it for me so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, Castle Combe coming up in April for me, then Snetterton for the both of us in May. And then we'll just see where the year takes us. I think Brands is definitely on both of our lists. Bloody expensive though.
It is.
You'd want to do the GP as well, wouldn't you?
I'd love to do the GP. I'd take either. To be
Yeah,
honest.
I think the Indy...
Be good fun.
I've never been so keen. I mean, we go and watch the British Superbikes quite a lot. I've never been so keen even watching the GP circuit quite so much. I think the Indy circuit has all of the best bits in it, as far as I'm concerned. I know you like sort of the faster, more flowy part of the track a bit more, don't you?
Yeah, I like that back section of the GP. It sort of feels like you're going into a bit of a separate circuit, really, with the forest.
Yeah, it's a very cool track, and a lot of undulation as well. I think is a fair word. You know, a bit of altitude change, which is quite interesting. Not something you get on a lot of tracks, especially not Snetterton. It's like other than the bomb hole, it's about a flat plane, isn't it?
It's about all you're getting, yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to do something like that. Cadwell Park is definitely on my list as well. Love to do Cadwell. I also wouldn't mind, we've spoken about it between us before, maybe a little bit of hill climb racing. Our first competitive event.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. That would be interesting.
I think it would. I've stupidly put clip-ons on my Tuono, so I've lost the one advantage that I would have at a circuit like that.
Level playing field, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the more exciting part, and hopefully some good videos on it will be to come, again, on the Regular Traffic Productions video YouTube channel. We'll see how we go. Like I say, we're going to be documenting some of our track days, a little bit of the build, probably more my side of track prep and whatnot than yours, but you will definitely be featuring in the videos at least. So we'll see how we go with that one. It could be interesting doing our first competitive event on motorbikes together.
Certainly will be interesting. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it for sure. Be good to get back out on the bike, back on two wheels, and kind of get back up to speed after a winter off really, and hopefully a lot more of it this year. Definitely that's a goal I think of both of ours.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like I say, I think we had quite a good year of it last year, but hopefully, well, the more we can cram in, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a lovely place to leave it. Sorry that this episode was a little bit more of a downer at the start. I think it's still an important subject to touch on, but hey, all up from here. I'm not going to say too much, actually. We don't know how this year is going to go. Touch wood. All up from here. And thank you very much for listening. We're going to look forward to, hopefully in the coming weeks, have some guests on, some guest eps. We'll see who we've got. Like I say, we've got some interesting people that have shown some interest. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting Keegan on and getting some guests on and, having some good conversations about bikes. So,
Yep.
Yeah,
you can't beat it.
Catch you later, guys.
Cheers.
See you in a bit.